Welcome to Not Ready for the Farm as we explore the journey of aging. We navigate the blessings of growing older, how to age well, live fully, with passion, purpose, relevancy, connection, and a good attitude. All through our laughter, our tears, our power, and of course, our changing bodies. We're not out of date. Our minds and hearts are curious, inspired, wise, and brave. With longer lifespans now, we spend more years as seniors than ever as kids. So we've got to get this right. After all, no one's getting out alive. Jess, I am really excited about today's episode. One of my favorite people of all time. When our listeners and viewers hear her and see her,
I know.
They will know.
They will fall in love also.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
A wonderful, authentic personality and a person with a big heart.
Well, who's also doing amazing work
Amazing,
in the community.
important work.
In really profound ways.
Nora Spencer is the founder and CEO of Hope Renovations. And as you know, Not Ready for the Farm is a fiscal sponsor with Hope Renovations. They will share if we ever make any money, which, hard to know. If they buy our mugs, we might make some money.
Well, yeah.
I think we make about $3 a piece, but, because I'm mailing them out personally. You see what I'm saying? And do you know what I used to get per hour? Anyway.
It's a good use of your time.
It's the best thing I can do is share that with our viewers and our listeners.
Yes.
Because it brings a little piece of us to them, and it's fun. You can find it on our website, but I'm a big supporter of Hope Renovations. I met Nora, and the minute I heard her missions, I said, I'm in.
Yeah.
This is one local nonprofit that I really want to support. They train women in the construction arts, women who are underrepresented. It's over 12 weeks to get trained, to go out and get better jobs, more money. The other thing, which really, like I go, whoop, whoop, I love this.
You hone right in.
I go, oh yeah, is she helps seniors age in place.
Right.
Which is amazing. Who does that? I've met them, I love them, and I am thrilled for us to welcome today for, I think, a treat for our audience and listeners. A treat for us, for our listeners and our viewers. Here's Nora Spencer. We are very excited today to have a special guest, a friend of mine who has agreed to stop by and share her wisdom and stories about seniors, older adults aging in place. But there's a whole backstory to this before we get started. Welcome, Nora.
Thank you.
I'm thrilled that you're here. How in the world did you get into running this nonprofit with such worthy missions?
It wasn't a linear path, and every woman I ever meet in construction, they didn't get here by a linear path. We usually kind of accidentally happen into the industry, which is what happened for me. I was not handy growing up. People ask me all the time whether my dad was handy, and no, absolutely not. His toolbox was a shoebox with a few tools in it and a Cool Whip container full of mismatched screws and nails. So not a handy guy. I didn't learn it from him. My mom was pretty handy, pretty artsy, creative, and could do stuff with her hands, but I never learned how to do that stuff. And I didn't know that it was an opportunity. And then later in life, I got into human resources and recruiting, and I went to work for Lowe's corporate headquarters. And while I was there, my now husband and I, Brian is my husband's name, we bought our first home, and it was a foreclosure. And and it was right at the beginning of the housing downturn. It was in rough shape, and our tastes were definitely outside of our budget. So
aren't they always?
It's what keeps us in business to some degree. But I wanted to do stuff that I couldn't afford, and I also, I hired a couple contractors to do some things in my home, and they did like a mediocre job. And I thought to myself, this doesn't look that hard. Like maybe I can use my employee discount from Lowe's, buy some tools, try some stuff out for myself. So I started to do that, and it quickly morphed from simple things like drywall repair to, I feel like I could probably wire this, and I might be able to plumb this sink, and maybe I'll try to fix this rotten floor. So, like any hobby that you really enjoy, it sort of became more over time. And the thing about knowing how to do renovations is your friends and family find out about it, and all of a sudden
You're so popular.
hey, yeah. So you want to come over and tile my backsplash or whatever. So it sort of became a side hustle for me.
I'm telling you, I've seen your home. I've been there. All the molding, all the colors, all this, everything is pristine and beautiful and done like a crafts person.
I appreciate that.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, and I was good at it, and just in general, and research bears this out, women are good at details, and I found that to be true. But I was hearing things from female friends of mine like, I don't know how you ever learned how to do that. I could never do that. And it's just, it would frustrate me. Like, of course you can do it. I learned from following contractors around and watching YouTube. Like, you can definitely learn how to do this.
Well, you're a pretty smart young woman to begin with. When did you go back to school to get your master's?
Yeah, a little bit later in life, I had what I like to call a corporate-induced epiphany that I didn't want to work in corporate anymore. Was kind of tired of spending all my talents and time on a company's bottom line and not on my community. So I needed to figure out what I wanted to do, and I decided to go back to UNC, which is where I got my undergrad degree. Go Heels.
Heels.
Yeah, decided to go back and get a Master of Social Work. My undergrad degree was in journalism, and social work was never on the radar. But as I learned more about it, I learned about macro social work, which is fixing systems. It's like looking at the big problems that create the personal and individual problems. And that really spoke to me.
You said it was social entrepreneurship.
So I got a specialization in social entrepreneurship.
Interesting.
Yeah. Well, it was a new thing at the School of Social Work. Typically social workers in the past have kind of shied away from the idea of entrepreneurship and business. Business is the man, right?
It's like the literal anathema of social work.
Exactly. Yeah, that's true. But, in my mind, I'd worked in business for a long time, and I saw the good that business can create. And I thought, well, gosh, if you can bring the two of them together, can't you just, do even more? It seems like it makes sense. So that was my specialization while I was in grad school. And my last semester in grad school, the entire time I was there, I was kind of forming this idea for a training program to empower women, and particularly marginalized and underserved women, into this industry that I loved and that offered great career opportunities and great wages. And then my last semester of grad school, I took a class in the business school about social entrepreneurship, and it was focused on aging. So the person that was teaching it was an aging expert, and we were to come up with a socially entrepreneurial venture that was aging focused. And I didn't know how to do that with this idea I had for a training program. I thought, this is not something that I want to just be for seniors, but I'll stay in the class. I might learn a thing or two. And when we got to the point in the class where we started talking about aging in place and how it is the fastest growing segment of the construction industry, and yet there's no contractors that are doing this work, because typically it's low margin. So a lot of contractors just won't take the time. A literal light bulb went off in my head, and I realized, well, gosh, if I have a training program, these folks are going to need hands-on experience. Why not give them that hands-on experience with this population that needs this help and help people stay in their homes? And
synergy.
That was where Hope Renovations came from.
So now you have this brilliant idea and a master's degree.
Yes.
Okay, and an idea. And now to start a nonprofit to serve both missions.
Right.
How do you fund it?
Oh, I could write a whole book on it. I got started, so I graduated in 2017, and that summer I started working on a business plan. That was my first. And I think that is something that a lot of nonprofits don't start with. they start doing the thing and then they put the business to it afterwards. But me not coming from a nonprofit background and coming from business, I needed a business plan first. So started working on that with a business mentor, and that took 6 months, and I ended up with a great 50-some page business plan, but it had everything laid out, and I was able to take that and start going to potential funders and sponsors and say, look, I've got this idea. It's plug and play. I just need you to give me some money so I can get started doing it. And, I beat the bushes for a couple of years. And then finally in mid-2019, the North Carolina Department of Commerce contacted me after I had applied for some funding from them and let me know that we were awarded a $200,000 grant to get started.
It's huge. That's a big deal.
Yeah. And in that 2 years, I spent a lot of time being really intentional about meeting people. I met Jess during that time, meeting folks who had relationships and influence and were just in this space and understood what the needs were and what the populations needed. And so by the time we got that funding and started, it was November of 2019, we started actually putting some operations together. I hired my first teammate.
Who's still there, right?
She is. We just celebrated her 6-year anniversary with us.
She's awesome. What's her name?
Sandy. Yeah,
Sandy.
She's fantastic.
She's the head of construction.
Now she's doing something different, but she's done multiple things in the organization, which of course is what you want. And 2 other people from my leadership team started this with me, and they're still there.
And their names are?
Sarah and Janelle.
Janelle, who are still there.
They're still there.
You've kept your core group.
Yeah, because we had a plan. We had a plan going into this. I was able to tell them, but they weren't I've got this dream.
But they weren't making any money then. They were just
we were all not making much money.
And so it was a commitment of the heart.
Absolutely. But the promise I made them is, if this is what I think it's going to be, which I think it's going to be really successful, there will come a time when you'll be able to pay your bills with this job.
I tell the people involved with the podcast
the same thing. Yeah.
Same thing. We're on a shoestring.
Have faith.
We're doing something that
you should have seen the whole periphery of the room was like, yep, let's do that. Let's go ahead. Let's do
these wonderful people are participating.
And that's what you do as a leader. You inspire hope. That's what people follow. Gallup's research says that teens, the thing that's most important to them is hope. That's why they stay with a leader and with an organization. Right. So,
well, you believe and you know what you're doing. You know what you're doing is going to change lives.
I mean, I kept getting feedback that's a great idea. Why hasn't anybody done this yet? Where are all the women's trades training programs, and where are all the programs that focus on seniors? Where are they? And there weren't any. There were 9 in the whole country that focused on women's training for construction, and 0 that had this aging in place focus. We were the first one. So we started early 2020 putting things together, and we were ready to launch in March of 2020.
Yeah. Womp, womp.
Yeah, right. So we all of a sudden had to put the brakes on everything. And it started to really become an issue because this funding that we had was tied to federal funding, and there were timelines on it and deadlines on it. And it was getting to the point where if we didn't start spending it, we were going to lose it. Mm-hmm. So, around May, the folks that we had recruited to start in the program were calling us and saying, can we get going? It's not getting any easier out here. And the people who were losing their jobs at the time primarily were women. And they were primarily women in low-wage industries like food service and hospitality, because all this stuff was shutting down, right? Meanwhile, all of these older adults who were living in homes that needed repair or needed accessibility issues, they were sheltering in place in homes that were dangerous. And at the same time, the organizations that normally do this, they were shut down. So the nonprofits that help with this, or the contractors that help with this, they didn't have time to do it. The construction industry started booming because everybody else who was sheltering in place all of a sudden wanted to fix their sunroom, or
they realized how annoying something in their home was, and they just realized they wanted to do it. Or, like you said, they were working and they're like, man, I need a closet. I need something.
That's it.
During COVID, I thought real estate would go down. It went up. Everybody started buying homes, renovating their homes, and spending all this money.
It was a great time for construction. It was a bad time for seniors living in their homes that needed help.
Well, even if you could move out, you weren't going to move it out into some congregate setting, right? Well, if you could afford it, you weren't moving. I mean, and then imagine the people who can't.
Right. Yeah. There was a lot of risk. And there was risk for us. You know, we were talking about, how do we go into seniors' homes? Like, they're the most vulnerable population. How do we do that? And, you know, how do we teach power tools from 6 feet away? You know? Yeah. But we figured it out. You know, we masked up and we sanitized and we read all of the information about how to stay safe. And in June of 2020, we did our first project for a senior.
Holy smokes.
The space you're in now, the first space in Carborough, Fitch Lumber, made it available to you.
Yeah, we could not have gotten started without Fitch Lumber, and they're still, you know,
big
our dear friends and our big sponsor, and they, you know, a big problem for us is we didn't have a space to get started in. You know, Orange County, where we are right now, is notorious for not having like warehouse space, and then finally David Fitch found out about what we were doing, and he was like, "We need this. And we've got this space that we're not using. Would you consider that?" Yeah. So we had to do some upfits to it and make it work for us.
It's a beautiful
It's been great.
It's been great.
And we're so grateful to this
family. How did you let a potential cohort of women know that there was this opportunity to be trained?
I mean, I created this thing and I was like, I think women are going to do this. There wasn't really any evidence because it's not being done. So I couldn't like point to something and say, this is going to be successful. And that made funding it even trickier because funders and grantors, they tend to want to fund things that they know are going to work.
And that will make them look good that they're associated
They want to invest in the things they know are going to work. And this was not that. Yeah. We didn't know. We, in fact, the first grant that we got from the Department of Commerce was an innovation grant. I think that's the only reason that they were like, yeah, let's put some money behind this. But, you know, we put the word out with agencies, you know, Department of Social Services, other nonprofits that serve you know, underemployed and marginalized women. And then we just kind of like started our social media presence, started talking about it. And the first women found out about it, expressed interest. You'll find this really interesting, Judy, because I know you know her. Our very first interview was a trainee named Martricia, who was in our first cohort of trainees and then joined our board and now works for Hope Renovations. And
I love that.
She's one of our instructors. She was a site supervisor, now she's an instructor. So
is she? She's very bright and it was natural for her.
Yes,
this was
absolutely
because her dad was in window painting and windows.
She had worked in construction. So she had wanted to work in. So her story is perfect. She had wanted to work in construction with her father and her brother her whole life. And her dad literally told her, it's not for girls, her whole life. And then finally one day, her and her brother took the business over and she said, you know, I need to learn this stuff. And so she came to us and that was what she did. And
how cool.
Yeah. She was a good student because she's really good at it.
Yeah.
And she just has, with the experience, has gotten better and makes a good living now more than she made before.
And she's just absolutely, you know, critical to what we do at Hope now.
Isn't that nice?
Yeah, it's definitely full circle. But that first group of women that came to us, it was during this pandemic time where everything was crazy and nobody knew what was going to happen. So the faith that they put in us to like come do this new thing and be our guinea pigs and try it out. I mean, the night before that first day of class, I stood in the doorway of our workshop bawling my eyes out just with gratitude. Just couldn't believe it was finally happening and I didn't sleep at all that night. And like we laughed, like Sandy said the same thing. She didn't sleep that night. Sarah didn't sleep. Like we were all so excited about this thing finally starting up.
And you did. And so you started there. And so the first 200,000, then you had to go out and find money from donors.
Yeah, we had to start raising
which
money.
Is half your efforts, not half, but a lot of them.
It's probably more than half.
95%
is raising money to support this. Now, do you charge the women going through? Do they pay? They don't pay.
It has always been free, and we have always offered a stipend. So that is another thing that makes this program very different. You know, we know that it is impossible for somebody to lift themselves up by their bootstraps if they don't have the support to do it. And if we want folks to be able to reach out and get the education they need to better their lives, we've got to be able to support them while they're doing it. They can't just take time away from family and take time away from a potential job that they could be doing.
Or a current job.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, so they get a stipend, they don't pay for it, and it's a full-time thing.
Pretty much, yeah.
For 12 weeks.
It's for 12 weeks. They're with us 4 days a week, and it's a big commitment. But I think a lot of our graduates think that it pays off.
And how many did you do in Chapel Hill before you now went into Wake County and now Durham Tech?
Yes, right.
And you got free space. Or talk about your expansion, because this is amazing.
We've evolved quite a bit. So we operated out of that space in Carborough for all the way through 2023. And about early 2023, we started to have a pretty lengthy wait list. So we weren't able to do as much. We weren't able to send as many people through the program as wanted to be in the program. Not only that, but we had women who were driving to us from Raleigh or Holly Springs, which is like 45 minutes or an hour one way, depending on where you live, all the way to Carborough. And so we wanted to be able to make this more accessible for people. And we started talking to Wake Tech Community College and to Durham Tech. And, J.B. Buxton, the president of Durham Tech, great guy. He was like, his words were, why are we not already doing this?
Yeah.
So
it's kind of a no-brainer.
Yeah.
And you had already been named, one of CNN's top 10 heroes of the year. First, they named 40 or 50 a year, one a week, and you were named one of those. And then you were selected to go to New York to sit on the stage and be part of the ceremonies as one of the top 10 hometown heroes of the year. Yeah. Nora.
Yeah.
Nora. That was
pretty cool.
That makes it a lot easier. That was in 2022.
That was 2022, yeah.
Makes it a lot easier to get Durham Tech and Wake Tech to say, okay, she's real. And to get sponsors and money to come in, okay, this is a big deal. Yeah. Plus your fundraising is tremendous.
And you're right. It sort of legitimized us in a way that we could, it was PR we couldn't have paid for,
Who's the hostess you were on with?
Drew Barrymore Show. So that was so fun. I did 2 Drew Barrymore Show episodes. I did the one, she honored me as she calls them Drew Gooders, and I came to her show for that. But while I was there, I taught her how to plumb a faucet.
I thought it was a toilet, but
it's a faucet.
A faucet, okay.
Yeah, good. I guess faucets are sexier than toilets.
I think so.
Yeah.
But you could fix the toilet.
Sure. We could have done that.
On
That
the
would have been fine.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And then they had me come back a few months later and do it again. And I taught her how to put in some cabinet knobs. I taught her how to hang a flat screen TV. They gave me a name, Nora the Tradeswoman, which was cute.
That's cute.
But that was a ton of fun, and that was great exposure too. It was 2022 was quite a whirlwind of a year, and then beginning of 2023, the National Association of Home Builders named me
Woman of the Year.
Yeah.
I was just this National Association of Home Builders, not the regional, not North Carolina, national Woman of the Year.
Yeah.
How about that?
So there was a lot that happened in the very short stretch that sort of made us start thinking about what's next, and
you thought you should add being a mother to a newborn.
There's that too. That sort of
in her mid-40s,
right?
While she's expanding this amazing organization.
That seems totally doable. Yeah.
Well, the joke I make is I grew a nonprofit, so
why not
grow a human too? Give that a try.
He's so cute.
I
was there when he was an ultimatum.
Yeah.
Okay. And saw the whole thing.
He is my best construction project I've ever done. So.
Amazingly cute. And you have a fabulous husband, Brian, who I adore Brian.
I know.
You've built up this expansion now. How many? You're doing a cohort every quarter in each?
No, we were doing more than that. I mean, that first year, so 2024 is when we started operations at Wake Tech and Durham Tech. So it's a great partnership. They provide us the space for free.
Wow.
We actually enroll the students with them. We pay tuition. The community colleges partially pay our instructor salaries for the time they spend there. So it really is a nice partnership for us.
Yeah, that's huge.
It's a great collaboration.
It's great.
It serves their purpose.
It does. And the other thing it's doing is it is exposing, women and non-binary folks to the community college system and helping the community college recruit them into their programs. Because it's always a challenge to recruit non-men into construction education.
Or any trades.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Now, along the way, your other mission that you are fulfilling has to do with these women who are now being trained, and you have demand, and people are contacting you about aging in place.
Right.
Tell us how that evolved.
Yeah, so, I mentioned that I learned about the concept of aging in place while I was in grad school in my last semester, and it sort of dawned on me that this is how this is all going to come together. In fact, that night from class, I wrote down the entire idea for Hope Renovations. Didn't have the name yet, but I sent the email to Brian, my husband, and the subject of the email is "Read this, I mean it," because he never reads my emails. And but he read it, and he responded back that night. He said, "This is an awesome idea," and my team got a copy of that email from Brian on Hope's first anniversary, and they all signed it, and it's framed, and it's in my office. Because that's really where it started. It was that night. And, it had personal meaning to me, too, because my own grandparents, my father's father, my jiddu, which is the Arabic word for grandfather, he had spent his final days and final months and years in a nursing home. And on the flip side of that, my sittu, my grandmother, she spent her final years at home. And seeing the difference between being able to stay at home and having to be in a nursing home was unbelievable. And also, my husband's brother, Jim, he had MS. And he spent the last couple of years of his life in a nursing home because he and we, because we were the only family that was left for him, we couldn't afford to keep him in the home that he and Brian grew up in. And it was a beautiful, wonderful old home that his grandfather built, but it was not made for aging in place. It was not safe. And we didn't have the money to do what we needed to do to keep him there. And so watching him just, the nursing home was fine, but it wasn't home. It wasn't the beloved home. And just watching that and seeing him, spend his last days there, it really had meaning to me that this is a sector of our population that I can help. It was never a maybe, it was never a if, it was these two things are going to go together, and that's going to be Hope Renovations.
And so how did you solicit or receive requests?
Yeah, beginning of 2020, I started looking for folks to hire to run this program. We found a gal named Kate and another gal named Kat. They'd probably hate me calling them gals, but anyway.
There's nothing politically correct about this program. Okay, you call them what you want. All right.
They're good friends of mine, and Kat and Kate came on board to run our construction side of the business, and we started just kind of putting it out into the world locally that this was something that we were going to do. We're lucky in Orange County. We have a coalition that got started about the time the Hope got started, called the Orange County Housing Preservation Coalition, and it's just a collaborative of a bunch of different organizations that do this work for seniors and for others, not just seniors, but people who need repairs, renovations, modifications.
There's an organization.
Yeah, it's a collaborative.
And who funds that?
Nobody really. It's run by the county. We had been talking to them, and then when we were ready to get started, we let them know, and they contacted us and said, hey, we've got this family out in Hillsborough that needs a bathroom conversion. So it was a woman who had moved in with her parents, and her parents' bathroom was unsafe for her father, who had dementia and mobility issues, and she wanted a walk-in shower to be able to help bathe him. And that was our first project that we did. Kat and Kate went out there and did that project, and I was out there some too, and
They renovated a bathroom.
They renovated a bathroom.
Because bathrooms are hard. Kitchens and bathrooms are hard.
That is, bathrooms are the number one place where older adults get injured in the home. Most older adults' homes are at least 30 years old. And about 30 years ago is when people started realizing we should make our homes more accessible so that when we get older, we can stay in them. So most older adults' homes are not aging friendly. And the bathroom is not a safe place.
And there are stairs and entries, so you go out and you build ramps.
Yes.
Tell us about what you find out there. Besides bathrooms, what other things?
Yeah, it's a little bit of everything that we've done over the years. Lots of bathrooms, but also, kitchens is a place where people need help making things more accessible. Flooring is often something that needs to be changed out. As we get older and our steps are more, particularly if we have mobility issues, our steps, we sort of shuffle carpet. And particularly if it's older carpet with, the ripples in it, it can be really dangerous. So flooring switch outs, lighting changes, a house that's not well lit is very dangerous for someone whose eyesight is not as good as they were when they were 30 or 40 years old. We do lots of ramps, lots of entry points, lots of just repair of porches and decks that are unsafe, railings that are no longer safe, putting railings in where there aren't any that exist, is one.
So how many have you done to date since you started?
Since we got started, so our first project was actually June of 2020, and we have done 349 as of today. And I just looked at it last night, so I know that's true.
That's a lot.
Yeah. It's a lot, 349 projects.
And so if they need the work, if they can afford it, do you charge them?
We do our work on a sliding scale. So the idea is if you can afford this work, you pay us market prices. And, it's market prices, but we do tend to be a little less expensive than the competition because, we're very upfront with our customers. We're going to be a little slower because we have trainees helping us. They're learning. Mm-hmm. So you pay us market prices. We do generate revenue from that, but then we take that revenue and we subsidize the work that we do for people who are lower on the income scale, all the way down to folks who just can't afford anything. And then for those folks, we use some subsidy from our revenue, but we also use grants and other funding.
You do have grants.
Absolutely.
Yes. Excellent.
Yeah. We get help from Town of Chapel Hill, Town of Carrboro, Orange County,
terrific.
and other municipalities.
Do you work on people's homes who are really not looking for aging in place solutions, who could just pay market rate and that could subsidize the others?
We did it first when we were first getting started, just because, we needed as much work as we could, but it didn't take long. What is it about seniors telling their friends about what, a good organization that you should reach out to? Because we have this one customer who I just absolutely love, Miss Williams, and she has told everybody in her neighborhood about us. And I think we've done like 11 projects in that one neighborhood at this point.
Do they feed the women when they come out there and do the work?
We get fed.
I'm sure.
We get fed, we get gifts, we get artwork. It's the best. And, and that's another thing, but it can be scary for a senior, particularly a senior or who's a woman living alone, which is primarily who ends up being our clients, to have a construction crew out at your house.
Yeah.
But when the construction crew comes out and they're not men, that makes you feel safe. And we build these wonderful, wonderful relationships with our clients. It is so, so heartwarming.
Your trainees are such happy people. It is like a camaraderie. So I can imagine if they go out to a construction site, first of all, they adopt the older adult, I'm sure, and the older adult adopts them.
Yeah.
And now you do the block or whatever, and that's amazing.
It's wonderful. We've actually had, over a couple weeks ago, we had a couple of our graduates. They had just graduated from our program, and we were told about a homeowner actually in Raleigh who the hospital was not allowing her to come home if she didn't have grab bars installed in her bathroom. And our graduates went out and did it for her. Like, we were on break for the holidays. None of us could get to it, but we had a couple graduates who said, we'll go do it.
Wow.
And they went out and put grab bars in this woman's home so she could be home for the holidays.
Well, that's the spirit you engender with these people.
Yeah.
Okay, of cooperation and teamwork and social entrepreneur or social contribution.
Yeah.
They learn that because I've seen your graduates. I've been to your graduations.
Yeah.
And these are they're not just like college kids who are happy they graduate and flip the tassel. These people, their lives are changed and they know it.
Yes.
And they feel it and there's friendships made there.
That's
forever.
The best part of our model.
Thank you so much for coming and sharing your stories and the goodness that you're doing.
Mine. For you two, it's completely mutual.
Thank you. And to our listeners, we will be seeing you down the road. Miss Nora and all of you. Thank you. I love when you laugh. I can come in here and not know what we're going to say or do. And then I look at your smile and your laugh, and you can hardly keep it together. Our listeners don't know because they don't hear you laughing.
I'm a silent laugher too.
I know. The two of us are silent laughers.
Yeah.
Which, when we both laugh at the same time, if there's dead air
Right.
and you're listening, just know the two of us can't control
And
ourselves.
Judy's kind of holding her boobs and putting her head back.
Well, I hold my boobs a lot, whether my head's back or I'm laughing, but okay, they're not what they once were, okay? When they're down around your ankles, you know it's time to have somebody drive you around in a car. or I have changed bra sizes. I have.
Oh, really?
I have. That's a whole nother story.
What do you mean you've changed bra sizes?
Well, all right. So let me tell you this story. When I was in 5th grade, 10 years old, okay, we lived in Miami. Okay, I went to Emerson Elementary School. Okay, and I'm in jumping jacks in phys ed one day, and the phys ed teacher came up to me. She said, Judy, you go home and tell your mother you need a bra.
Oh, jeez.
And
Well,
I said,
that was direct.
I said, okay, Miss So-and-so, I will. So my house was a couple blocks down the road, and I went home and I went, Ma, teacher said I need a bra. She looked at me and she went, oh my God. So we ran off to Sears.
Oh, good.
Yeah, we
She
went
jumped into action.
right into action because she could see for herself through my t-shirt that I needed a bra. Okay, the day before, okay, I didn't need a bra. Today I needed a bra. Okay, so we go to Sears and and I get an A bra, fits fine, go home. Next day, back to school, jumping jacks. Teacher comes up to me and said, Judy, I thought I said you should go home and tell your mother you need a bra. I did, Miss So-and-so. She says, well, go tell her you need one that fits.
Oh.
Okay, so I went home. Ma, she said, you need to get me one that fits. So off we went to Sears with the bra I got and handed it back to them, although they don't take them back. She said, we need to refit her. My mother was very proper.
Oh.
We need to refit Judith. Judith. And so I got refitted in a C cup.
Oh my God, Judy.
I'm telling you, one day, no bra. Day 2, A bra. Day 3, C cup. And that's the story of my youth.
Wait, you shoved yourself into an A cup when you were a C cup?
No, I was an A cup that day.
No, you weren't.
I was. They just popped out in a couple of days. And then I had a C cup. Can you imagine going through the rest of elementary school and junior high school, even high school, with a C cup? Okay.
Well.
Moving on. How we keep people aging in place.
Yes.
And why do people want to age in place? Okay? With or without C cups or any cups at all.
You can age
But,
in any cup.
Well, my point was when they get down to your ankles, again, they got to go somewhere. And, even when I lost weight, okay, it was always a C cup.
I like that you tried to move on and then you really had to double back around.
I had to double back around.
You're like,
Because
and one more thing.
They got bigger as I got bigger. But when I lost weight, they reverted to a C cup. So I know that's my natural state. Now, I understand wanting to stay in your home environment.
Oh my gosh, of course.
Why would you want to stay in your home environment?
Well, I mean, it obviously would depend if my home environment was, if I could navigate it, right? Which is why Nora is, is doing such a service. But, I think you're very used to where you live. You have a community there. You have neighbors that hopefully you like, or, if you don't, you're used to not liking them. It's very familiar, but also like your home is the place where you have a lot of memories. You also just know how to navigate it, right? I go to someone else's house or I go and, to a rental at the beach, and I can't remember where the silverware is. I can't figure out anything, right? And then of course, by the time I figure it out, it's time to go home. But, you're very accustomed to it, and you feel like you just know how to live there, right?
There's such a sense of independence. All of us, we don't want to give up driving.
Yeah.
We want to stay in our home, sleep in our bed, all our pictures and memorabilia.
So I think it's just so easy and familiar. It's really understandable.
The meaning of life is in my mug.
Yes.
Okay? The not ready for the farm. Yes. In here is the meaning of life. Okay?
Is it like bourbon? Like, what are you drinking?
Everyone has a different meaning in their life, and they all drink, it's all flavors.
Yeah.
Okay. We'd love for you to have a mug. We don't make anything on them. We'll mail it to you. I mean, we'll make enough, because I'm I'm sending them out.
Judy is licking stamps.
I'm licking the stamps.
Putting them on, and then she's going to the post office.
That's right. Yeah. That's what I do.
There's a lot involved in this.
It's a lot of work.
And also know that Judy supports Nora's work. And so if you buy a mug, Judy's going to
share it with Nora's people.
Yeah.
We are grateful that Nora was on with us today. We are grateful that we got a chance to wrap this up and talk to you a little more about it.
I'm actually very grateful that you are sized in the right bra.
Well, today I am.
Yeah. And I love it for you.
And I love it for me. So we thank you for joining us for another episode of Not Ready for the Farm, and we'll see you down the road. We appreciate you joining us here at Not Ready for the Farm as we navigate the journey of aging. Please like and subscribe and visit our website at notreadyforthefarm.com. Find us wherever you stream your podcasts.